This is a patch I created in VCV Rack to emulate a traditional Eurorack setup. Previously, I'd jump into the software and I'd be loading in modules as and when I needed them, and not really using each module to its full potential. With this setup, I have to treat the whole array of modules as an instrument. I need to experiment with each one as best I can to get different sounds out of them. So starting with the top left, we have clocked, which is used as a clock source and clock divider. There are three, as well as the main clock, three separate outputs, each with their own division or multiplication of the clock, as well as some swing settings, pulse width, and a delay. Then we have random sampler, which is a clone of marbles. This is used as a clock divider as well, but also a more chaotic probabilistic source of a clock signal. Then we have a gate sequencer. This is used to generate rhythms mainly, but also just to send gates to any other module that accepts it. Then we have Turing machine. This is used as a source of chaos again, generating random voltages that can be sent to other modules. I have an attenuverter sat here just to limit the range of some of these CV outputs. Then we have a sequencer called network. This is a step sequencer. This works by sending CV outputs to linked nodes in the network, each with their own CV value. When one of these nodes is triggered, that gets sent to the main CV out. So this, you can end up with a variable sequence length triggered in a different way each time. That's quite an interesting way of sequencing this plugin. Then we have a quantizer with 4 ins and outs, as well as control over the root and octave. Again, conveniently next to a multiplexer here. We have another quantizer just down here, next to a D-infinity pitch shifter. This can be used to generate harmonic pitches that go along with this quantizer. Over here to the left is the segment generator. This is a clone of stages. This can be used as an attack decay generator, a slope generator, a step generator, and an LFO. It's quite a flexible plugin. This again is used for modulating, generating envelopes for other modules. Then we have Rampage by Bifaco. This is a clone of Maths. This is an envelope generator, which is incredibly powerful. I'm a big fan of this module so far. Variable rise and fall, as well as cyclic settings, different ranges, different trigger sources, exponential curves. It's quite fun to play with. Then Tidal Modulator. This is a clone of Tides 2. This is sort of a wave LFO creation tool. This can generate all sorts of crazy CV signals. It can even be used as an oscillator itself, which is why it's next to the rest of the oscillators. Here's the macro oscillator. This is a clone of Braids. This has a lot of different waveforms to pick from, as well as some cool detuning options. It's just a really versatile oscillator and a lot of modulation options. We've then got a few geodesics modules. This is Energy, a ring mod oscillator. This can be used to generate some really quite crazy sounds and a lot of percussive sounds, which is quite useful for. Next to that, we have Brains, which is a sample and hold plugin. This is pretty interesting. I've not really played with this too much yet, but essentially you have 7 inputs and outputs from the same trigger, and this trigger can also collide with the opposing sample and hold section, again with 7 inputs and outputs. So there's some quite interesting things you can do with this. Next to that, we have Black Holes. This is a kind of all-in-one attenuverter mixer thing. Again, quite useful. I'm using this essentially as a mixer and also as an extra attenuverter. We have another segment generator down here and another Rampage, just because they're very useful for generating envelopes and LFOs. A shift register. This can be used for sequencing, but also just kind of pick sample and hold values and keep them going, generate a bit of randomness or progression. This is next to the utilities module. This just has some useful rectification plugins, some logic, some sample and hold features, as well as a noise generator. This is quite a good all-in-one plugin, and it's only 1 unit. Next to that, we have the Wave Shaper from AS. This is just really good for doing all sorts of things to the wave that you're feeding it. 3 inputs, 1 output. and control voltages for all 3 wave shapers, as well as a mix input. Then this plugin I've not really played with too much. This is Scanner from Starling Via. Again, another wave shaper. Looks pretty interesting. It's essentially why I put it in here. Beeline from Valley. This is a low-pass and bandpass filter with a ton of modulation sources, as well as stereo audio and a mix channel. So quite a powerful filter. Then I have the XFX F35 filter. This again, really flexible, a ton of different filter options, and a modulatable drive frequency and resonance. Plateau, which is probably my favorite reverb plugin. It's a plate reverb emulator. EQ settings, diffusion settings with EQ, and also modulation built into the plugin. And then just to the right of that, we have signal delay, which can be used to delay events sent to other modules, or to actually be used as a delay. So this is the initial kind of patch I've been playing around with just today. First time I've got something that sounds somewhat nice out of it, so I'll just let that run now. So here the gate sequencer is actually not being triggered by a steady clock, but it's being triggered by a bit of a more random clock coming from the random sampler here. The clock source comes in, and then it goes through a Bernoulli gate, which is kind of randomizing when those steps come through, and it generates this really kind of chaotic rhythm. Network over here is generating the pitch. You can see each time this triggers, they kind of rotate through these different options, and depending on which step they're on, this triggers another node, depending on the connection. So with this at the moment, you have a 4, 5, 6 step sequence, and it's alternating between them. Pitch is being modulated on the fly by this sample and hold plugin being sent to the shift register. This shift register is then being sent off to a few different things. One of those is this quantizer root note. So that's actually changing the scale that we're playing at here. The glitchy percussion sounds in the background, they're coming from this ring mod oscillator, and this is being quite quickly automated by one of these Rampage plugins. So there's a very fast and hard envelope on that, as well as some modulation going on with the ring mod to generate this kind of clicky phasing sound. That's then going through a signal delay to generate a bit of an echo effect.